Hey, what's up, gamers? This is Herc here doing your canned intro. Today we are talking about games as a service and whether or not it's good or bad for the gaming industry as a whole. For this episode, we actually wound up talking about 2 hours on this topic, so we will be splitting it up into a couple of parts for you guys so you don't have to listen to it all at once. So be on the lookout for the sequels to this conversation. Okay, before we get started on this topic, I feel like we should say, talking about games as a service, there's a lot of statistics that go into this. A lot of, numbers going around, revenue streams, all that kind of stuff. You're going to try to get all these statistics right when we talk about them. But at the end of the day, we're just two bros having a conversation. This isn't a research article. So sit back and enjoy the chat. So, games as a service. I am of the opinion that 100% the games as a service trend is bad. Okay? I don't like it. And
Surprise.
we're going to talk about why I don't like it. But first, I think it would do us well to define games as a service. And I'm taking this straight from Wikipedia. Games as a service represents providing video games or game content on a continuing revenue model similar to software as a service. Games as a service are ways to monetize video games either after their initial sale or to support a free-to-play model. So, this model is what we're seeing a lot. And I mean a lot. And I mean like a lot. So much so that it really plays into our last topic, the homogenization of video games, to the point that a lot of games that wouldn't have otherwise been a games as a service are becoming a game as a service title. And because that's a tongue twister, I'm just going to start saying service titles or service games. So this really started bigly. It started bigly back in like 2014. I think Destiny might have been one of the first big AAA like modern gaming games as a service title. Before Destiny and before Fortnight, this monetization model was very, very popular with mobile games like Candy Crush, which made a gajillion dollars, right? But I think it's bad. I think it's bad because it turns video games, a game, into something permanent. And I don't necessarily think a game should be permanent, or I don't think that all games should be permanent. But I'm going to shut up for a second and let Poop get a word in edgewise.
Well, I think games with a service started even before that. I think Destiny was one of the first times you saw it on a console, but it's been more prevalent on PC. You got like WoW and
Right,
some
yeah.
of these like
So, yeah. No, you're right.
other games. It's not like EverQuest or whatever, but there's some of these other games that were kind of in that model there for a little bit. I mean, look, as always with this industry, money talks. And if the money's there, it's like rats to a food pellet machine, man. They're just going to hit it as much as they can, as hard as they can until they can get everything out of it. And it's working. I will agree that it has drastically changed the way that video game producing and distributing and overall the experience of getting a new game and experiencing that in itself has completely changed. But you and I are of the older vein of gamers where I remember, I think I'm older than you. I remember going to Blockbuster and renting a game and taking it home and playing it and then having to return it a couple days later. I mean, I remember that was the way that, you either bought it or you rented it, and what you got on the cartridge or on the disc, that was it. And by the time you got it, the developers and the publishers were already moving on to the next title. And if it shipped with a glitch or if it shipped broken, that's the way of the road, man. This is what happens. You had to deal with it. So I think some context needs to be, established. I come from an older generation of gamers where I remember using DOS to play Doom on my Windows 3.1 system. I mean, it's
Damn, you're
so
old.
yeah, dude, that's just that was the way it was. And nowadays we're seeing a way that the suits can get more money. We're seeing a way that players can be engaged by using tactics, psychological tactics, anywhere from fear of missing out to um, gambling tendencies. If you want to start talking about loot boxes and drops and stuff like that,
We're going to talk
so
about
we're
all of it
seeing. Oh, I know, but I'm trying to do a recap or like a outline. I'm trying to be
today on
professional.
Entitled Gamers.
I know you had the whole thing at the beginning where like we're gonna give you shit stats, so I might as well at least sound like I know what I'm talking about. But the thing is it's not going to go away soon, and it's not going to change until something drastic in the development cycle changes, because it's and there are things that are really challenging to maintain in this development cycle with regards to games as a service. It is hard for the developers in some regards, but I think the ends kind of justify those tribulations because they're just making money hand over fist.
Right, and I should probably say that we're both Destiny players, and Destiny is a huge game as a service. So we're probably going to talk a lot about Destiny today. Although we will talk about other games in this category, of which there are numerous. I think it's very interesting that you mentioned Blockbuster right out of the gate.
Rip.
Because games as a service killed that industry. Not Blockbuster. Blockbuster was dead. It is dead. It's very dead. But games as a service killed GameStop.
Yeah, GameStop. That's more like it.
Yeah, GameStop is a store that their whole business model was playing a game, finishing it, trading it in, and getting a new one.
Yeah.
And then them selling
Yep.
used games. And that isn't really a thing when a game lasts forever. And GameStop has been struggling. They have been struggling a lot. Let's see. In 2013, 2014, by the end of 2013, let me see if I can read. This is a really hard chart to read.
Oh, you're looking at that stock ticker? Yeah.
Yeah. So their profits were like through the roof, up to, I think this is in million. Might be in billion. It doesn't say. I think it's million. A lot. Yeah, I think it's million. So 56 million by the end of, this chart is
Well, that
really
would be
confusing.
that would be the holidays. That spike, every time you see that spike in like the last little bit would be the holiday season.
Right, the holidays. But yeah, but the end of 2014 is the last time it hit that high. It's just a constant downward trend. So whatever this number is, right? At the end of 2014 it was 56, and at the beginning of 2017 it was 24. So like, dude, they dove hard. Although what's actually interesting is that at the beginning of 2013, their numbers were the exact same that they are at the beginning of 2017. That's actually pretty wild.
I don't know. We'd have to go back and dig into that, but that's why we put that disclaimer, because we just
Because
it's
we're
a
not
pretty
going to do
picture.
that. Yeah, it's just crazy. All right, so I mean, there's a clear downward trend since at the 2014, when the games as a service nation really attacked, and it just plummeted. So yeah, I just thought it was pretty interesting that you brought up Blockbuster right out of the gate like that, because that was one of the effects of games as a service to kill GameStop. I mean, there are still GameStops.
Well, it's a change in the structure of the way that games are made, but it's also a change in the technology. I think a big decline that you see in that is a lot of games went digital, and
Yeah,
you
that's
started to just
another huge
download
one.
games off the internet. So that's probably a huge proponent in what that is all about. But I mean, games as a service can be done well, and I think there are some games out there that do it well. One that kind of comes to mind, and I'm not fully immersed in the game, but what I did play I really enjoyed, and that was the Monster Hunter World situation. Now they do have a fear of missing out situation because they do very seasonal things, and if you're not there for it, you don't get it, which I'm okay with, um,
I'm
to an
not.
extent. But the thing is like if you don't do that, then your game ends up super bloated and you have a lot of stuff that you have to work with that's old and dated, and it it can be very frustrating from a developer standpoint where you develop yourself into a corner, and then you're having to deal with older assets when you may want to move forward, or you may want to change and modify and do some things
Mm-hmm.
that may even improve the overall gameplay, but the player base doesn't want to let go of what they know for fear of what they don't. And that can kind of, you have to balance that. And that's one of those things I hinted at earlier about doing an always online and a decade long roadmap for a game is you have to juggle a lot of that stuff. So in the end, I don't think games as a service is bad. I just think that it can be implemented poorly. And then when it is, the ever beautiful internet always likes to voice its opinion. And so, and we usually hear the vocal minority more than we hear the silent majority.
I think more often than not, games as a service is implemented poorly. And there's a reason for that. I think that the reason it is more often than not implemented poorly is because it's a very abusable system. Because it sounds great. This game you love will never stop. We're going to keep adding stuff, and you'll have hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of game to play for the next decade. Right? It sounds wonderful in theory. It's a very easily abusable system. And we'll get into that. So, one game that I think actually does games as a service well, which is going to surprise some people because I spent all of episode 2 complaining about it, Fortnite. I think Fortnite does it really well. Their monetization system isn't really exploitative because the game is free, and all the stuff you get from it is cosmetic. You got a bunch of time to do this shit, and it doesn't make the core gameplay any different. Whether you walk around as John Wick or you walk around as the T-800, you're still going to get killed by ninja. So
I agree. I agree, but the thing is that's boring to me. If I only look different, the gameplay is always the same, and I don't play in those games. I'm not a hyper competitive person, so I can't
Not me
relate
either.
to that. So from the outside looking in, from the entitled gamer that I tend to put myself in from this perspective, I am not attracted to that gameplay model or that service model. I think it works beautifully for what it is and on the people that it's targeted for, but it to me it is asinine. So, but you're right, it does work well, and they've made a lot of money. Now they've started slowing down. They're not making a cajillion billions as much as they were before, but
There's a reason for that.
What's that?
You like how I did that? There's a reason.
Yeah, you
and then
did.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the reason for that, and this is kind of one of the topics of why games as a service is not necessarily a great fit for every game, is when Fortnite first came out, it was one of the only options for that style, for that service model. Since then, Fortnite is still alive, but you've got Apex. You've got, what's that new one we talked about, Hyperscape? You've got all these games coming out, right? And they're all new service games. But the problem is that the new service games are not only competing with the new service games that are coming out alongside them, they're competing with the service games that have been around for 5 years.
Yup.
So you've got players that have been playing Fortnite for 5 years, and you've got to try and appeal to those players and get them off of there. And some of them have, a lot of Fortnite players went to Apex or PUBG or what the heck ever. There's so many battle royales, but that is kind of the negative thing about games as a service, is that we're losing sight of the ability to play a game, beat it, be finished with it, and play other games. Now it feels like you have to commit to a video game the same way you have to commit to a job, right? You can't work 8 jobs at the same time. Similarly, it's really hard to play 8 games as a service at one time, especially if you're like a completionist player that likes to get everything. It's impossible. You can't do it. Yeah. Right, because you have your real life job. Yeah, which is another thing. So yeah, these games are coming out into an atmosphere where they're already underdogs, and I think that soon, because of this specific thing, I think soon, games as a service will stop being as profitable as it is right now, because you're gonna get to a point where the market is so saturated with service games, and people are so dedicated to just the one that they play that making a service game will be more of a risk than it is a surefire success right now.
I can see that. And in fact, I think I would even go to argue that we're going to see the next shift in game development be more towards like what indie games are, and start to see, people really kind of come back to their basics with regards to the games that they want to play, because they're attracted to the style, not necessarily the competitive, repetitive nature of what these battle royales are. I mean, personally, that's what I look forward to.
Right.
But I mean, that's kind of off topic.
Well, not really, unless I misunderstood what you were saying.
No, I mean, it's just like we're talking about games as a service currently where we are right now, and I was trying to predict what's going to happen in the future.
Hey, man, predict what's going to happen in the future. What if, like, 5 years from now, you're right, and be like, see, the entitled gamers, we told you.
Yeah, you, me, and the 3 other people that listen to this, God bless your souls. Yeah, I feel vindicated. But currently where we sit right now in this hellish year 2020, it's going to be around for a little bit while, and a little bit longer. And unless something kind of comes along and revitalizes it, it's just going to be what it is. And you're right. It's going to be an oversaturation. It's going to be too many to keep up with. And you're going to see like the overall video game player base kind of be split into sects, because they kind of already are. That's a SECT, not SEX or S. God damn it.
Yeah, sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Thanks.
Totally cleared that up.
Yeah. So anyway, I honestly think we're going to be in it for a little bit longer, and it's going to take a couple of very egregious actions on some. And we did have one. We did have a major egregious.
I know exactly
if you remember,
what you're talking about. Battlefront 2, baby.
Back in 2017, EA decided to kind of strut their stuff. And I think right now they have, I read an article, I think you sent it to me. It was like they have the most downvoted comment on Reddit.
I think it still is the most downvoted. It's 667,000 downvotes.
Like 2/3 downvotes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And basically it was somebody from EA trying to justify what they were doing, which of course, as we all know, they later, totally changed and came back on. But we're talking about Battlefront 2 and the progression system that they had in there versus, how much you had to play to get certain things unlocked. And it was just horrible.
Right. So let's specify what they were doing.
Yeah, go ahead. Lay it out there.
They were, what it was is they had a microtransaction model where it was specifically with unlocking the playable characters from the Star Wars franchise in the game, like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, those people.
Yeah, the big dogs.
Yeah, you could earn credits to unlock those characters, or you could buy credits with your wallet to unlock those characters. But the thing is someone did the math, and I don't remember the math off the top of my head. This was 3 years ago. Someone did the math, and it was like you would have to play 40 hours a week for like 6 months or something like that to get enough credits to unlock all the characters without ever spending a dime. And so their comment about it was like, we want players to feel awarded, or to feel, I can't remember the specific buzzword they used, but it's like, we want players to feel rewarded when they unlock a character, and that's why that's how we've designed this system, and that's why it takes this long to earn credits, blah 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 blah. And that's why it was such a super downvoted comment, because that's bullcrap. That's bullcrap. You wanted to make it such a painful slog that people would realize they're not going to dedicate 40 hours a week for 6 months to Star Wars Battlefront 2, and they would just pay the $20 to have Luke Skywalker and run around and hit people in the face with lightsabers. Like, you knew exactly what you were doing.
Yep.
And so that's why there was so much outrage.
I'll go ahead and read the EA community team. Negative 667,820. This was 2 years ago. So The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. As for cost, we selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking to at average player credit earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course, obtainable via gameplay. So that's a big middle finger in my opinion. It's like, yeah, we hear you, but we really like what we're doing here. And it's just, yeah, it did not go over well
And it didn't work.
at all.
So I looked it up. It is still the most downvoted comment on Reddit. It holds the Guinness Book of World record for the most downvoted comment on Reddit, which is hilarious. The next most downvoted comment is 88,906 downvotes from a comment on Thanos did nothing wrong, where the comment literally was like, please downvote me or something. And so they got this guy says downvote me. He gets 88,000 downvotes. They got 6 times that, almost 7 times that.
Yeah, it was nuts. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it's crazy.
it was a good litmus test for the fact that the gaming community could rally behind that and say, no, 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 no. This is bullshit. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
We're not going to put up with this. And we need more of that. We need more of that. And I think because we have so many different games as a service and people are split, we don't really have a unified gaming culture that is kind of watching each other's back, if that makes sense. And I feel like we're going to kind of have to come back home a little bit, kind of bring it in and figure out what we want as a consumer so that we can kind of get this thing back on track. Because right now, as long as people keep doing what they're doing, nothing's going to change. Not one damn thing.
Yeah. Dude, I think it's going to change because I think that people are starting to see through it. Like when games as a service was first becoming the big buzzword, you had all these company execs coming out and telling us about how great it's going to be and all the awesome stuff they're going to do for us, and everyone's like, yeah, this sounds awesome. Like, I love the internet. Thanks, dude. And it just hasn't been that. I can't think of a single game that really lived up to the promises it made pitching itself as a service. So I think that, 6 years later, people are starting to see through the bullcrap. They're starting to see that games as a service isn't really good for us. It's good for the developers. And some might think that what's good for the developer is good for the game. And what's good for the game is good for us, right? But it doesn't really kind of work out in a one-to-one perfect world like that. It just doesn't.
No.
The best example of this is freaking Destiny. They make $300 million a year, and they take 3 months to do updates. They've got a 700-man team that they're splitting between projects for absolutely no freaking reason, and the only thing that seems to get regular updates is the cash shop because that's what makes the money. I mean, we literally had an entire year in this game where there was no vendor refresh for vendors where you could earn gear. The only vendor that was consistently getting refreshed was the cash shop, and it was getting refreshed 2 times every 3-month season. Like,
Yep.
They are going to prioritize what makes them money, and the whales are going to fund the game, and then the game is going to be catered to the whales because they're funding the game. It's a vicious cycle. It's just going to get worse. It's the Ouroboros of gaming. So let's talk about FOMO.
Oh, God.
FOMO it's a pretty hot word right now, especially in the Destiny subreddit. It refers specifically to the fear of missing out. And this is what happens. This is what you get as a gamer. It's just a psychological effect when something that you enjoy has a limited time event that you can only complete within a limited time, and get a reward from that event that goes away once the event is gone. So you get something tangible in-game, and you only have that limited time for the event to get this item. So you may shift your priorities to play this game more during this event because you're afraid to miss out on getting that item. That shit sucks. I hate FOMO. I hate time gating, right? I like games where I can earn everything in the game whenever the hell I want. And the reason I like games like that is because I'm a very busy person. And I don't have time to sit here and play a game for 40 hours a week. I don't know how people who aren't streamers have that kind of time to play a video game. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. If you're out there and you don't play games for money, but you have enough time to spend 40 hours playing a game, write me an email and tell me how the hell you're doing it. Please.
What's your email address? I got an email to write.
That would be entitledgamers@mobomu.com. That's a real email. So
I'm gonna jump in here.
Okay,
because I'm gonna jump in here because I always like to kind of ruffle your feathers if I can.
I know you're about to defend it.
Stop being an entitled gamer, douche. Here's the thing. Games as a service, longevity is a major part of that ideal, right? You want a game that lasts. You want a game that keeps bringing people back. You want something that is continuous for an extended period of time. So what is one way to entice people to come back is to offer time limited events, things, items. I understand that it sucks to miss out. I hate missing out, but there was a point when I was playing the game where I literally just put the controller down. I was on Xbox at the time and I said, enough. It was starting to feel like work. It was starting to feel like a second job to an extent. And I was taking time and making decisions that were not helpful to my IRL as opposed to my online world. And as much as I love the game, I needed to take a break and reevaluate some priorities. And I missed out on some stuff. And I think that was the biggest thing. And I'm not trying to turn this into a psychological thing, but that was the biggest thing for me to help me get over that FOMO, because I was a FOMO. I was fear of missing out for a long time. And then I got to thinking, I was like, what exactly will I be missing? What will I not get? What will change? You know, and to an extent, I had this realization where it's like, it's just ones and zeros. It sucks that I won't have it, but give it a couple seasons and it'll be irrelevant. And so I understand, I experienced it, and I feel like I kind of broke out of that. And it does suck. It sucks wholeheartedly that that's what is a major driving factor for these developers when it comes to keeping people in the player loop. But at the end of the day, how much do we need to hold the developer responsible for that, as we should expect better out of ourselves and not let ourselves fall into that mental rut, so to say?
Okay, the answer to that question is very much, and I'll elaborate. Fear of missing out isn't something that fucking these people invented. This is just a naturally occurring human psychological phenomenon. You know, in everything, you don't want to miss out, right? You know, your favorite band's coming to town. Well, this might be the last time to see them play, you know, the album of songs you like. So you don't want to miss out. You buy a ticket, you go see it. Like day to day. Well, not day to day, but a lot of the things people do in their life is based on the fear of missing something. So I see the use of FOMO in video games as specifically exploitative of human nature. And I'm like you, man. At Destiny 2, I hit a point with Destiny 2 this year where I was just like, F this. I'm done, you know? And I stopped giving a crap about having everything. I stopped giving a crap about devoting all my time to this game to get all this crap that was meaningless. And it was so freeing. I cannot recommend saying F you to a video game enough. Seriously, it did wonders for just my mental health at the time, you know, because I was just angry all the time at Destiny. But at the same time, it is 100%
Wait, you're not?
the developers. No, not anymore. I'm like angry. I came down to like 85%.
Okay.
But it is entirely the developer's fault for using this exploitative tactic. So let me give you an example, because there is another way to do these events that isn't as exploitative but still maintains that sense of limited availability. Division 1, not 2, because fuck them, they did the FOMO stuff too. I can't say the F word. I might have to beep that. Division 1, they did world events. And it was like Operation whatever. And they had these different world events that had modifiers that changed the way the game worked. So there was one where it was like you couldn't get close to enemies because they had infection, right? So if the closer they got to you, you were taking damage over time. Stuff like that. It would change the way the game worked and force you to play in different mechanics. There was also cosmetics associated with the world event and gear sets and stuff like that. So you played the world event, you ran all the missions for the world event, and you got credits, and then you used those credits to get your crates, and, you got your stuff from your crates. Well, the world event would last for, I think it was a week. Like, the event would show up, it would last for a week, and then it was gone. But it came back, and it kept coming back. It came back like every, 3 to 6 months. It would come back, and you could get the stuff from the event still. And maybe it would come back and have new stuff, but the old stuff was still available to get. So as long as the event kept coming back, you still had the potential to unlock all the stuff. You didn't have to do everything in a week. I think that's the perfect approach to these limited events. Is that, yeah, it's limited. Yeah, you get all this cool stuff from it. It comes back. It's not get it now or don't ever have it. All right, I think the get it now or don't ever have it, I think that needs to go. I think it's a terrible, terrible, predatory, manipulative model, and it should be gone from games.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll use Destiny as an example. There is a machine gun that is out there in the world that I don't have. Heir Apparent. I never really played the season that it was in, and so I never really
the one from
jumped on it.
From the Guardian games?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
It was
Guardian games suck.
But well, the thing is I don't have it, and I'm okay with that. Where I would have a problem is if the next season it was purchasable in the store. That would be kind of a slap on the face to those that were there to get it, and it would be kind of a cheap way to get money out of those that didn't get it. So that's what I'm against.
Well, Heir Apparent is going to come back. It won't be like
in
Eververse. It's just going to be like in the exotic loophole.
Yeah, it'll be in the loophole maybe in a couple seasons. It won't be immediately because that'll kind of right. Make those that did get it a little pissed off. So I'm okay with that.
See, that's another good way to do it.
For sure. Now, when it comes to exclusive content, I'm okay if I wasn't there to get it. I'm okay with that because that's kind of a badge of honor for those that were. And I don't necessarily think that they're being completely predatorial with this. I don't think that they're completely banking on the fact that people have that. I mean, it is in nature something that we carry with us, the fear of missing out. But on the other side of that coin, I don't think Bungie is specifically jumping on that to make other people feel bad for missing out. I think what they are doing is they are rewarding people for staying in the game during its very long life cycle and keeping people invested that are still there and showing up. So if you don't want to play the game, then I don't think you should be pissed off because you didn't get the stuff. That's my point.
That's bullcrap.
That's why is that bullcrap? Because
I'll tell you why that's bullcrap.
Okay, so if you didn't want to spend the money to go to the concert, then you don't get a bitch about not being able to go to the concert.
Well, that's different, right? That's different because with limited time events, I spent the same amount of money that they spent. So let's say they got a limited time event like the Guardian games, right? It's 3 weeks, right? Well, my grandma just died in California. I got to go out there and spend time with family and attend this funeral. Because of that, I missed out on this limited time event. It's not because I didn't want to play with it. It's because I physically couldn't play it. It doesn't take into account so many life situations. And right, obviously, like,
yeah, for sure, that makes sense.
Something like that is way more important than some dumb shit in a video game. But it's what you said, specifically the whole it rewards players for being there. That is part of the problem. It is catered to the types of players who go out there, they get the rare thing that no one else could have, and then they stand around in the tower like having this special helmet means that they got a bigger pee-pee than everyone else in the tower, and they just sit there and get all smug. Look at me, I got my thing, right? I got my thing, and you can't have it. Like, that is what it is. And there's players out there that they live for that. They live to have something that someone else can't have. And that's all it is.
I feel like we're digging up some much deeper issues here, Herc. I really, do you want to
look? I'm just
you want to lay
complaining.
down on the couch, unpack some shit?
I
Let's
got a
go
couch
through
back
it.
here. I can lay down. Let me go grab a pillow and do some entitled gamer therapy. Dude, I just think it's shitty. It's shitty. Okay, because look, when Destiny 1 first came out, right? It was a game that was honestly, as lame as it sounds, was built on making friendships. So if I'm still friends with people that I met in Destiny. Like, I met them out in the world looking for something. And I shot them a message and like, I'm looking for this. And I was like, oh, I have that. I'll help you get it. And now we're friends years later. You know, like, and that was one of the core qualities of Destiny that was super, super cool, right? You know, you're flying around in orbit, someone joins you and like, oh my God, that ship is awesome. It's like, oh, dude, come with me. I'll show you how to get it. You know, oh my God, that armor is awesome. Oh, you get it from this raid. Let's go do it. You know, like, wow, that's a really cool emblem. Oh, yeah, you get it from doing this thing over here. Let's go do that. Everything in the game was like that. I mean, sure, you had like the donate to Bungie's Foundation to get the heart emblem. Very, very minor stuff like that, which I'm okay with stuff like that. It's whatever. It's a freaking emblem. Now, increasingly, and I mean increasingly, especially in Destiny, it's like, oh, wow, that's a really cool gun. Where'd you get it? Oh, you had to play on Tuesday 3 months ago at 7 p.m., and then they gave it to you for doing that. It's like, it's stupid. It's stupid, and so much of the stuff in the game is like that. Every season now, there's 2 armor sets, a series of weapons, some emblems, events. If you don't do it, you don't get any of that. Any of it. And you've got like 2 months to do it. And it's a lot of stuff you have to run through in 2 months. You got to play the game a lot. And on top of that, you've got everything in Eververse, and that's on a 2-month rotation. I mean, dude, literally when I think it was season of the Vex. What was it called?
Undying.
There you go. Season of Undying. Someone on Reddit did the math, and everything that was added to the Eververse store that season was equivalent to $500 in silver to buy it all. You got 2.5, 3 months to do it. Dude, $500 in 3 months to buy it all is insane. And I think it was over 50% of all that stuff was silver only. So it never came around for in-game progression earnability. So yeah, that is predatory. That is predatory. People are looking at this stuff, dude. They hype up this store. They're looking at all this stuff that they have to buy within 2 months. It makes them spend money faster than they would. And when you talk about a game like Destiny that has people who are addicted to it, yeah, they know what they're doing. And they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, well, I think you're talking more specifically about the store itself. I'm talking more specifically
No,
about...
I'm talking about in-game. I'm talking about in-game. I'm talking about freaking everything. Dude, like the armor set that you got from the season pass, the armor set that you get from doing the event. And specifically, it has become increasingly bad in with the seasonal model in Destiny this year. It has been terrible because the seasons go away. Everything in the season goes away. The story missions go away. The guns you can earn go away. The armor you could earn goes away. The event you could play goes away. All of it. It goes away. It never existed. And especially the story content. Like, if I pay the $10 for the season, I should be able to play that campaign mission whenever the hell I want to, even if it's a year later. Like, that should not go away. That stuff shouldn't go away. And this... I'm going to put a pin in that one because I want to come back to the whole you paid for it and it goes away. But the thing is, damn it, I got so excited about wanting to talk about that, I kind of forgot where I was going. Yeah, shit.
Well, here's the thing, Herc. You don't own that game. You don't own that game. None of us do.
Yeah, okay, well, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
That's the biggest thing about the games as a service is you don't own the game. You own access to the game in its current state. That's it.
Which is stupid.
But that's a service. That's a service.
Right. Services are butthole, right? Okay, so like Adobe, the Adobe Creative Suite, they've moved to being a subscription only thing, and it's so much more freaking expensive for the same effing software. Dude, it's a way to get more money out of you for the same thing, except it doesn't really work like that, right? Because like, okay, so the Destiny content vault, this big thing that's coming up, that's happening with year 4 in November, right? I'll explain it for people who don't play Destiny. So the year 1 campaigns and those raids are being removed from the game and put into the Destiny content vault, which is their off-game name for stuff that's been taken out of the game but can come back at some point. But it's not in the game. It will no longer be accessible to players at all. It's nowhere. It's not like it's moving into a section of the game where it's an optional install and you can install it if you still want to play that stuff. It's gone. But the thing is 3 years ago, I paid $60 for the Red War, and I paid $30 for Curse of Osiris and Warmind and all those raids. That's what I paid money for. I got to play them, but what if I still want to play them?
You don't own the game.
When I paid the money for those items...
Did you just me?
I did you. When I paid the money for those items, there was no asterisk that said this is liable to go away at some point. That wasn't anywhere.
So an online game is just supposed to stay online forever?
No! It doesn't need to...
Well, Herc, I don't know what you want. Help me help you, Herc.
I want a big game that has freaking everything in it, and people can choose to install it or not, right? Destiny is like 100 gigabytes. And they're like, oh, it's so big. Yeah, well, 30 gigabytes of that is foreign language files. So if you would let me choose to not have that shit installed, you'd save me 30 gigabytes. Like, serious, how are there no optional installs?
I think the bigger issue here, and this is specific to Destiny, we're kind of getting off the games as a service, and I don't know.
Really,
this is
Destiny
me attempting to put
games as a service.
I'm trying to put a bow on just the Destiny specific because I don't want to exclude listeners that aren't really invested in that game. But Destiny has tried to change its formula from when it first launched to where it is now, where it should have originally been a games as a service and stayed that way the entire time, as opposed to starting the way it did and where it is now. And I think a lot of the pushback that you're getting from the community would be kind of null and void or not as severe if that was the game plan from the very beginning.
If that was the game plan from the very beginning, I probably would not have stuck with the game because I just hate shit like that. I am a completionist type player, right? When I am enjoying a game, I just, I automatically start looking at like, okay, what's all the stuff I got to get, And there's certain things where I'm not saying that I kind of am, but I'm also not saying don't time gate everything. Like weapons, armor, who gives a sweet shit? But dude, they're time gating stuff like the in-game triumphs. They're time gating stuff like experiencing the story of the game. So if you didn't play for this fucking 2 months in the game, 6 months ago, you didn't experience any of that story. And if you don't get to experience that story, then 6 months later, you're going to be lost as hell when shit is happening based off of what happened. You got to go watch someone else play it on YouTube. And if I'm watching someone else play a game on YouTube to figure out what's going on in the game I want to play, why don't I just go watch a freaking movie instead? You have reached the end of part 1. Please turn the tape over next week to hear the rest of the conversation. Hello again, Craig.
Craig, tell me a joke.
Craig, you're hilarious.
I'm kind of offended, Craig. That's probably not socially acceptable joke in these current times.
That's why Herc found it so funny.